Hey there, and welcome back to the Application Insider channel. Today, I am so excited to bring to you the first of a new series of videos that you'll be able to find on this channel, and that is student interviews. So I am chatting with students who have gone through the whole application process, or they are going through the application process, and they're sharing their experience, and they're sharing things that have worked well for them, and they're sharing their advice and suggestions for other dietetic students who are also going through that process or know they will be in the future. So this first interview is with Jenny Fernandez. She applied in the spring 2021 match and she got her first choice programs and she will be an intern in a couple of months. So I'm so excited to share with you what she said about what worked for her, her process for going through the application, and the things she did to make it a more enjoyable experience and really make good use of the time she had to work on her application. So let's go ahead and meet Jenny. Okay, welcome Jenny Fernandez to the Application Insider podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Same. I'm so excited to be on today and talk about my experience.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, to get started, can you just share a quick introduction of yourself? If you want to say where you're from or anything about your DPD or DI programs, that would be great.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Tampa, Florida, but I went to school over in Miami. I went to Florida International University, and that's where I just completed my DPD just right now in April. So that was very exciting. And now I am moving all the way to North Carolina to complete my DI at Meredith College. So big change, but again, very excited.
Yeah, awesome. I didn't even put together that, of course, you would be relocating for your match
Yeah.
to Meredith. So that's exciting. Have you been to North Carolina before?
Yes, I have.
Awesome. Well, that's always fun to explore a new place as you're getting your experience. That's awesome. All right, let's just start by sharing why you chose dietetics as your major and the career that you're going to be working into.
Yeah, so actually, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So growing up, I always worked with a registered dietitian. I just always valued the work that they did with me. And I just always aspired to be just like that and wanting to help other diabetics in the future. So that really got me into the field of dietetics. And I started majoring in it and falling in love more with it and learning that there's more than just, teaching people how to eat and, learning about the body. There's a lot more that we can do. So that really now has inspired me to do a lot more than just helping people, diabetics in particular. But yeah, that's basically what got me into the field.
Mhm. Do you want to continue working with diabetics, do you think, when you get your credential and all of that? Do you anticipate that's where you'll go? And it's okay if you change your mind between now and then?
Yeah, I do want to become a certified diabetes educator for sure. But I also know I want to do private practice. And I know within that, I really want to help women in general, just with like chronic dieters, like PCOS, different avenues within women's health is another like big area that I really like. So I kind of go between both, but we'll see.
Yeah, you got time and you'll be kind of seeing all different parts of the field in your internship and you can decide what's a good fit from there, of course.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you had a good experience with the dietitian you worked with. I know that a lot of people, that is what brings them to dietetics, is having an experience or a situation come up where they get that close interaction with a dietitian. And I am so glad that those interactions are good and that, I mean, I hope there's no one out there that their interaction with a dietitian is turning them away specifically from dietetics. Obviously, they can choose to go into other fields, but I hope no one's like, my dietitian wasn't great, so I'm definitely not doing that. So I'm glad you had a good experience and it brought you closer to dietetics, and now you're here with us.
Yes.
All right. So you just were in the spring 2021 match and you matched to Meredith College. So let's talk a little bit about your application experience. First off, kind of the first thing I encourage students to do is narrow down what's important to them, maybe the number of programs they want to apply to. So how did you kind of go through that first process of narrowing things down and deciding where you might submit your application?
Well, first I thought about location. So first it was in Florida. So I was looking at programs in Florida, and then I knew that there would be a possibility that I could move to North Carolina and be there as well. So then I started looking at programs both in Florida and North Carolina. And as I knew that North Carolina was becoming more of a possibility for me to move, and me wanting to personally move and go somewhere different, I just decided to only focusing on the programs in North Carolina. And then I did all the open houses. And from there, I just kind of went with how I felt during the open house. Like Meredith really stood out to me. The Sorry, I'm blinking right now. um, the program director at Meredith was just very welcoming, very like, oh, if you guys have questions, feel free to email me, set up one-on-one appointments with me. I'll answer anything, even questions about the application itself. And I just love that they were so willing to help, that I felt like, oh, they seem like a really good match for me. They seem like if I go to their program, they're really going to listen to me.
Mhm.
So that's how I decided to rank them as number one and make them my first choice. And then the other ones I just did because I was also interested in Sedesco, knowing that they had a concentration in diabetes, knowing
Mhm.
that that's something that I wanted to do. I felt like it was a perfect fit. And then I also did Aramark because it was another one that was close by. And I also really liked the management and leadership concentration, since I knew a lot of my experience leading up to this has been in management and leadership opportunities. I thought it would be another great pick for me.
Mhm. Awesome. So were you able to go to any face-to-face, like in-person open houses, or was it all virtual by then?
So it was all virtual, unfortunately. Yeah, I wish I could really go to the campus at the time and kind
Mhm.
of like see what it was going to be like and everything. But still really good experiences, even though it was virtual.
Yeah. And I love what you said about just kind of having that gut feeling that you went in not only to learn about the program, but to kind of see how did it feel interacting with them? Did the people feel like, if I had questions, I'd feel comfortable asking these people, or these would be a great set of faculty or staff to work with as I'm an intern? I think that's really important. So I'm glad that you said that. Um, this is something that a lot of people wonder about when they're preparing for open houses. Did you ask any questions? Did you feel like you came up with good questions that were useful for you as you were kind of making that decision?
Yes, I made it a priority to ask a question because I did
Good.
want to make them know like my name, or at least like my face or something, like, oh, she spoke up or something. Even though there was a lot of students in this calls, I still wanted to speak up and say something. So I would just always ask something small, like, like knowing that I wanted to do diabetes, I would ask like, do you guys have any rotations that maybe work with like something diabetes related or something like that? And just to see what they would say. Or since it was right in the height of COVID, I also asked if like, things were going to be in person, like what was their goal? Like what were their plans? Because that was something else that I was really like looking forward to, is being in person again. So I
Mhm.
really wanted to know those things. So I just kind of like thought about things that were important to me. And if they didn't mention it, then ask a question about it.
Okay, good. I love that. I love going in with a priority, knowing you're going to speak up somewhere along the lines, and then planning some questions ahead of time. And those are really good questions. Having been a director, that's something that tells them they're thinking about, what it would be like to be in this program. They're making the decision or they're getting the research to make that decision if they'll be a good fit. So those are some great suggestions. All right. So you were in the spring 2021 match. When would you say you actually started working on your application and diving into DICAS?
So I started my personal statement, I will say like around October.
Okay.
And I started working on that all the way from like October to December. I think I finally like finalized it. And
Mhm.
then December, I went like head on with DICAS and just filling out everything, checking it over and over again, like trying to be as like thorough and as like just perfect as I could be and like
Mhm.
answering everything and making sure like all my documents lined up. So yeah, it did take me like a lot of months to kind of get it all together. I definitely did not wait till last minute because I did not want to feel overwhelmed.
Good. So it sounds like you were probably did you have a break between semesters where you had a little more time to devote to your application?
Yes, yeah. So during my winter break, it's really when I like try to do everything. And those are the times like I tried to, get my transcripts together, get all those little things. Cause I also wanted to like enjoy my break. But I knew like if I could just take 30 minutes to do like one step during my break a day, then like I would get done faster. So I did that. I made that a priority. I was like, I'll take 30 minutes to an hour every day and just do one little thing for my application.
Nice. I think that's a good idea to break it down, but then also knowing ahead of time, having estimated, I think the personal statement might take a little longer. So diving into that a little earlier, I can see that being really helpful, especially since applying to multiple programs, you probably wrote multiple personal statements to make one specific for each, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I did. And I was mostly worried about my personal statement because I really wanted that part to like outshine in my application.
Mhm.
So I really, really, took my time with it and started as early as possible.
Yeah, good. Very good tactics. You're like falling right in line with everything I would suggest to someone, so that's great. All right. When you started working on your application, other than maybe the time that was invested or required for your personal statement, was there anything that you had a major concern going in or that you felt like you needed to pay more close attention to?
So, truthfully, I was a little concerned about my science GPA. It was
Mhm.
not my strong suit. So, I was really nervous about that and just really nervous about if I should mention it in my personal statement. Like, how should I go about even making that something, making it seem like something that is not as important. Like, I had other features that really outshine that could make me a great, make me a great intern.
Mhm.
So, because of all that, I was really nervous, but I did, really talk to the directors and I told them straight up, especially with Meredith College, I told them straight up, like, this is my science GPA. Is this something I should be concerned about when looking to apply to your internship? And they were honest with me and they said, look, we don't really look at specifically science GPA. We look at your overall. So as long as your overall is where we want it, then, you're good to go. So that brought me a lot of ease. So really asking those questions, like, do you guys look at these particular things? Really brought me a lot of like just more calm and like more confident and like, okay, I can do this. I'll be fine.
Yes, I love that you opened up that conversation. That's something that, whether it's GPA or whatever, some students are worried about experience or family situations. And every program is going to have a different approach to how they look at things. Some programs do look at science GPA separate from the overall DPD. And trying to assume what they will think or how they're going to evaluate that can, I mean, it can just like create so much mental drama and trying to figure that out. So I love that you opened up that conversation and that, I mean, it sounded like they gave you a pretty direct answer that was really helpful for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they did.
I think sometimes it can be scary. Maybe you can even, was it scary to start that conversation? No, no, not even to assume. Was it kind of,
It
were you
was
anxious
scary. It
about
was
it?
definitely scary. I booked like a time to talk to the
Mm,
director one on one. So we Zoomed and I started like asking other little things about the program. And then I said, one of my major concerns about applying is my science GPA. And that's when she was more like, oh, like, it's okay. Like, we look for this is what we want, but we take everything into account when we look at your application.
mhm.
But there were like a couple programs that I looked into and they had specific science GPAs and I knew like that was probably not going to be a good fit for me. Um, so it is scary. But after like I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I like asked this and actually like took the initiative to step up because then I just, again, I felt confident about applying to the program.
Hmm. Good. I can share from the director's perspective that when students called me or emailed me or whatever, and they had those specific questions, it was so good to know exactly what they were looking for and to share the exact like what they needed to hear. I mean, sometimes it was like, you're not going to make the cut for us. And then it was just like, look at other programs that will be a better fit for you. And sometimes it was like, you're worrying too much about something. Here's some more information to help you put it into perspective. So to anyone who's wondering, can I ask this question? Is this a good question? You can open up that conversation. You're bound to get information that will be helpful for you moving forward. So, all right. Tell me. So you mentioned already a little bit about your application approach, setting aside a certain amount of time every day, breaking it down into small steps, which I think is great. Is there anything else that you used as a particular technique that worked out for you, or was it really just breaking it down?
So one of the first things I did was write down everything I needed to do, even from like
Mhm.
just grabbing my transcripts, because I had gone to a couple other universities before. So I knew that I was going to have to reach out to those universities and get those transcripts. It was just a lot of little things that at the time you're not really thinking about. So I wrote down everything. I made a list. And then I broke it down into like, okay, this week I'm going to make sure I tackle all my transcripts. I tackle paying or like mailing out the fees that you have to mail out, like little things like that. I just made sure like this is the goal for the week. And then again, then I said at the time because I had so much experience that I knew it was going to take a long time inputting those experiences into DICAS and looking up the phone numbers and looking up the contacts again and remembering how many hours I did and all of that. It's a lot when you first look at the application, you don't feel like you're going to take that much time
Mhm.
on it. And then as you start thinking of everything you've done in the past couple of years, you're like, wow, I've done a lot and I have to input all of this correctly. Um, so yeah, just mainly just breaking it down and making a list. Those are my top two, I think, tips I would give anybody.
Okay. I like that. And I like what you said about kind of planning your task for the week instead of just being like, I've got a list. When I sit down for that 30 or 60-minute block of time, I'm going to see what I can accomplish, but going in with a plan. So I can imagine that just felt more prepared and you knew exactly what you were working on for that time frame. I think that's a great approach. About the experiences you have, so you said you had a lot to put in. Tell us some of the things you did that that added to your application and that helped you get ready for your internship.
Yeah, so I am a big friend and lover of pre-RD
Nice.
.org. I love that website. It has connected me with some amazing dietitians, and I really used it to my advantage once COVID hit and it was harder to do in-person volunteering. So I definitely reached out to a bunch of dietitians. I worked with a handful of them in all different avenues as well because I really wanted to learn a little bit about everything. So I use that as a major, major way of gaining experience and tailoring it to things that I was interested in.
Nice.
And then my school also put out a mentoring program where they match you with an RD and you can just kind of like, you could kind of see what they do. And then they can also help you with your application and things like that. So I also use that in a sense to like kind of learn more of what a clinical dietitian does. And then I also in exchange helped her with social media.
Nice.
So it was a good opportunity to like learn from her, but then also again learn like more about posting on social media and like what that looks like. And from there, I was very involved in my Student Dietetics Association. I was on the e-board as treasurer. So I used that as another experience. And then through SDA, even though we were completely 100% remote, we still did a lot of like virtual events. So I made sure like I was able to help as much as possible.
Mhm.
Sometimes we would have dietitians come in and speak. So I did have the opportunity to reach out to a couple of dietitians and network and have them speak to us. Um, I worked with a dietitian, and she does all again social media private practice. And it was a lot of fun because she was specifically into diabetes. So I got to see everything that she did. I got to post on social media about diabetes. So it was like something that was like fun for me. And
Yeah.
then also a really big learning experience. She also has a big part of her is to talk about cultural competency. So like that was a lot of fun to learn about more of like the cultural needs and like really bringing awareness and diversity into dietetics. I love that too. And then lastly, I with a couple of my friends and I started a podcast ourselves last summer. So that was another like big like project that we did, and it was a big learning experience because we had no idea how to podcast, no idea how to edit, like nothing. We just kind of like went in and YouTubed our way out of it. But that was fun again because we got to connect with so many dietitians and have them come on and talk to us and learn a lot from them. And then I had like my own Instagram as well, where like I would post a lot of like what we were learning, like different recipes and just like all different things that are like nutrition related. So I felt like all of that really helped me have a lot of like dietetics experience. But apart from that, like working, I had worked retail jobs. I had been in management positions at those retail jobs. So that really helped me to like show them that I had these leadership qualities that they were looking for.
Mhm. Awesome. I love that you were able to focus on experiences that are in the area you're interested in, but also that you just kind of went out with some friends and paved a way to make something happen and YouTube your way through. I love it. That's such a good use of resources and just figuring things out. So that's awesome. Those are some really great examples. And like you said, being able to showcase some management and leadership skills, students realize that those types of experiences have a lot of value, and you just gave some great examples of things that hopefully other people can think about as they are moving forward. All right, and then when it came to actually working on your application, I just have to ask this, did you use Application Insider resources to help you get through it?
I did. I did one of your personal statement boot camps. It was like
Oh,
one where we got to like join the Facebook group, and then like every week we would have like a live call, and then like you would help us. So that was very very helpful because I had one idea of how the personal statement needed to be like, but then once I actually did it with you, I was like, oh wow. Like, the questions are a lot more deeper than you really think. And what they're looking for is a lot different than what you might think they're looking for. So, and it was super helpful, especially because it had, other students on it as well. So when I heard them talk about, their struggles and stuff, it kind of gave me ideas too, like, oh, like that's a really good point. Um, and then talking it out with you. I know every time that I came on, I would just sit there and like read this part, and then you would give me ideas and tell me
Mhm.
like, oh, but how do you feel about this and that? So it was super super helpful. I like 1,000% recommend it. I tell everybody, I'm like, get help because it will make your life so much easier.
Awesome. Yes. And I am, for those who are listening, I am planning on hosting some live workshops again this summer. So I'll have a link to join the waitlist. So you'll get that info. That's actually one of my favorite things that I've done through Application Insider, because I get to work with a lot of students at once. And that personal statement, there's so much that goes into it. And I just want everyone to know kind of what the expectation is and how they can meet it. So I'm glad it helped you kind of put those pieces together. Okay, so my next question is there anything you would do differently if you could go back and like go through the application process again, or would you do it kind of the same way you did it when you did go through it?
The application part itself, I think I would keep everything the way I did it. I was actually really proud of my application. I felt really confident and secure about it. The only thing I think I would change during like prior to my application is really trying to get help in those science classes when I was struggling. Just so I know I could have probably done better, and I know that could have also helped me feel even more confident, even though like I had programs that tailored to my other strong points.
Mhm.
Knowing that you have like the good GPA and like everything else just makes it even more easier and kind of allows you to have way more many programs to apply to. So that was like the only thing, because I knew I could have done better, and I knew it was just something that I need to like speak up and like say like, hey, I'm struggling, I need help. Um, but other than that, I think everything else I pretty much nailed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, your techniques and the timing and the preparation and planning you did ahead of time, all of that has to have gone into the way you're feeling now and when you hit submit. Um, okay. I'm going to go back just a second to the number of programs. You have ended up applying to 3, right?
Yes.
How many were you initially looking at, and like what did you narrow it down from, just number wise?
Oh my
Do you
gosh, I
know?
think I was looking at like 10
Oh,
programs.
wow.
Since I was looking at both, again, North Carolina
Oh,
and
yeah.
in Florida, I was looking at a lot of programs. And again, it really, really what made me narrow it down is, was it a program that I felt I would be comfortable in? The staff was welcoming. I knew that like I had strong points. Like I had more strong points than like points that would like bring me back down. So I knew like Meredith was looking for someone with a lot of leadership qualities. And I knew I had that experience. Like I knew I could bring that and show that to them.
Mhm.
So those were like the main things I tried to focus on when I was looking at like narrowing down what programs I was going to do. Cause like I said, I had a couple that I was really interested in, but I knew I didn't have like their science GPA. So I unfortunately had to let those go. But I mean, in the end, everything works out for a reason. And I'm really happy with my choices. So
Yeah, because you matched to your first choice.
Yep,
So
exactly.
how could it have gotten any better than that, right?
Yep, yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, the last thing I want to ask with every episode of the Application Insider podcast, I like to just give listeners a potential action item. So, is there anything you would share, a piece of advice or a step that you would suggest that they could do today for their application, their education, or their career? What would be your suggested action step?
I think networking. I think that's what's helping the most. Networking, having an Instagram, even if you don't want to use your personal one, make one that's just with, a more professional one. You can share whatever you want on it that has to do with nutrition, but connect with the RDs. They are so nice, so helpful. I even met some that had been through my program at Meredith, and
Awesome.
I got to ask them questions and ask them like where they are today, what did they do? Did they get a job right after? So all of that really, really helped. And again, through networking, I also got more volunteering opportunities. I got a job with an RD and doing social media. So I definitely a big, big fan of having a more like professional Instagram that you can network and meet other dietitians, especially in areas that you're interested in. I think it's the best way.
And networking definitely worked out for you. So I love that piece of
Yes.
advice. We have a success story right in front of us. That's awesome. Okay, fantastic. Would you like to share any of your social media handles so people can follow you after this episode?
Yeah, my Instagram is at food.body.confidence. Um, and yeah, I basically share, like I said, everything about I'm hoping to share my internship now, but at the time I was sharing my process as a DPD student and um, little things about the application when I was frustrated, and even like recipes and different just nutrition advice. But yeah, that is my IG. And thank you for having me
Okay.
on.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing about your experience and just giving some insight that will help future dietetic students.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's helpful for other students for sure.
I think it will be. I really do like what you said about networking and using that specific word because I mean, that really is what you did when you
Yeah.
were reaching out to people. And I'll put links, like you mentioned pre-RD, I'm going to put links to that and everything because I've actually looked at that website a few times and it's a great resource. So
Yeah.
all those links in the show notes so people can get there if they want because it's really good advice. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. Of course. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. A huge thank you to Jenny for sharing her experience, her tips, and her advice for getting through the application process for dietetic internships. Congratulations again to her on matching to her first choice of Meredith College. Jenny mentioned a few useful links that she used during her application experience, so I've got links to them in the caption below. Go ahead and check them out. If you would like to be featured on the Application Insider YouTube channel and podcast, there's also a link to a form to submit so you can be a guest there and you can chat about your own dietetics application experience wherever you are in the process. Also, if you want to work one-on-one with me on your application, you can start with a free 20-minute brainstorm call. Links to that are in the captions. So go ahead and sign up, get that on the calendar, and we can see what will be a good fit for you working with Application Insider. Thanks, everyone.